everyone. Welcome to today's session. We at NAHA, North American Hindu Association, have community engagement sessions as often as we can. And today's session is with Girish Chandra ji. He is going to do a session about Vedas. In Girish ji's own words, he says he's a student of Gita and a humble servant of Sanatana Dharma. He lives in Surrey and is a student career coach at UBC. But more than that, we know Girish ji as a proponent of Kannada, especially with Kagga's poetry. And we've always seen him very active in the community, and we're really looking forward to today's session. And it is indeed a wonderful thing that you were able to talk and have a quick chat with all of us today. Thank you,
Wonderful.
and on to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate that quick introduction. Uh, First of all, today's session, uh, I was telling even Sundarji that I don't know whether I'm qualified to talk or not, but just that you guys believe that I can talk gives me the qualification or the confidence to sit in front of you all and to even have the courage to even speak about this subject, which is an ocean out of which we can't even we have probably tasted a drop of that ocean. Just a taste of that may have encouraged all of us to come here and look into that subject. So without any further talk, I will just share my screen and then take the conversation from there. um, I was telling Uniji that what we could do is I will also be monitoring the chat session on my left side. So if you have questions, if I am going very fast, if I am going very slow, if things are getting over the head, just drop me a message and I will be monitoring the chat message. And if you have any questions, leave the questions here. And only thing is, I have been a little ambitious, so I have put a lot of stuff in there, and I hope to cover as much as we can. So the intention of today, I will talk about that later. So let me start by sharing my screen, and then uh, if I do a presentation mode, can you see the full screen, or is it okay? Fantastic. So as Lakshmiji said, my name is Girish Chandra, and the hope for today is to do Veda Parichaya. That's only introduction. Before we do that, what I would ask all of us to do is sit straight, take a deep breath, and then let's do 3 pranavas before we begin our session today. Let's take a deep breath. And then one thing about pranava is the sound that we produce, it should be effortless. There is no effort. Om, that's not how we chant Om. Om is the most natural sound we can produce. So without any effort, when breathing out, whatever sound comes is the sound of Om. So let's start. Deep breath and then 3 Oms. So with that, I will start with what we call Shanti mantras from the different Upanishads. I have placed the name of the Upanishad in which that Shanti mantra comes. So we will start our session with the Shanti mantras from the various Upanishads. If you know, most of us know the Shanti mantras, so please go ahead and chant with me as I chant these things. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्ताक्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुषुः श्रोत्रमतो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्यां मां मा ब्रह्म निराकरोद निराकरणमस्तु निराकरणमेस्तु तदात्मनि निरते य उपनिषत्सु धर्मास्ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ वाङ्मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठिता मा वीर्म एधि वेदस्य म आणीस्तः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीरनेनाधितेन अहोरात्रान् सन्धदामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवत् तद् वक्तारमवत् अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. So the beautiful part of this portion that I just chanted is we all know these things. We have all seen these things at various places, but we sometimes may not know that these are coming from the various Upanishads. Most of us know, but it's good to refer to which Upanishads they are coming from. So it's a good start. So that's why I thought no better way to start than chanting from the scriptures itself. So what I intend to do today is cover a few things. As I said, I am a little ambitious, so there are some places where I will run like Rajdhani Express. So please slow me down if I am going too fast. Intention is to cover the base. The intention is, as I have mentioned in the bottom, is to lay the foundation for future discussions. Intention today is not to cover everything in detail, but touch some bases and then take it from there in the next sessions as Sundarji and others we discuss through that. So I will start with a very, very quick note on Bharatiya Samskriti. And then I will look at the classification of the Bharatiya Shastra, and I will look at what is Veda, what are Vedas, and what are these Vedantas or Upanishads. We will touch Smritis and then Vedanga and a few Prasthanatraya. What are these? So today is a session of building our vocabulary. Most of us know these terms. So today's session is to refresh on these terms, and also if we did not know before, it's a good opportunity to learn some of these terminologies that we may be using in the future sessions. So today I will be touching only the Samskrita Shastra. I will not be touching Shastra from Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, which are equally enriching. Even in Hindi, there is a lot of Shastra, Vedic or Veda when that is knowledge, but we will not be touching any of that. We will only be touching what is from Shruti and Smriti. We will look at that. To start with, Bharatiya Samskriti is built around these mantras, stotras, sutras, shlokas, gitas, ganas, spread across samskaras, what we call rituals, even in education, as well as our daily routines that we do. So we start our day with a prayer, which Karagre Vasate Lakshmi Karamadhye Saraswati Karamule Sthite Gauri Prabhate Karadarshanam is what I do. You may chant something else. And then as soon as I get up, before I step on the Bhumata, I say Samudra Vasane Devi Parvatastana Mandale Vishnupatni Namastubhyam Padasparsham Kshamaswame. Such beautiful samskara that we have. And then we do Sandhya Vandanas. Then even before we eat, we chant prayers. Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashritaha, that we are Brahma Arpanam Brahma Havihi, that we chant. And then through the day we chant different things. Just before we sleep, if we are not teaching our children this, we should teach these things, which is Ramaskandam Hanumantam Vainateyam Rukodaram Shayane Yasmare Nityam Duswapnam Tasya Nashyati, things like that. And when I introduce myself, there is a shloka for that which is called Pravara, where I say Vaishwamitra Gamarashana Kaushika Trayarshaya. So in every aspect there is this gratitude, expression of gratitude, there is an expression of positivity, there is the expression of humility, and most importantly, it's the expression of celebration. Bharatiya Samskriti is all about celebration. Even before somebody is born, there is celebration. When someone is born, there is celebration. By giving a name, we celebrate. First time when a child eats food, there is celebration. A child goes to the school, there is celebration. So it's a Samskriti of celebration and celebration and celebration. So that is how we enjoy life. But we have more and more, we are letting go of samskaras. That's where we are losing out this celebrating life, living, and afterlife. That's the base in which I wanted to start today's discussion. And again, I know most of you know most of the things I'm going to present today, so I apologize in advance, and I'm not a subject matter expert. I may have tasted a few suktas here and there. I may have tasted a few shlokas here and there. That's my only qualification to sit in front of you all. So let's look at very broad classification. As we all know, of the Vedic Shastra, the broad okay, sure. In my thank you, Raghav. My intention was just to show the vast nature of the shlokas, that not to get into the meanings. We can get into the meanings in separate sessions. I will definitely send the shlokas, each of the shlokas for the various stages that we do to each of us. We will share it on a Naha website or somewhere, or I have blogs that I write, where we will share the meanings and other things. My intention here is not to get into the meanings. Unfortunately, we don't have time for it. So we will just touch a lot of stuff. So it may be bouncers for a lot of us. It's okay, perfectly fine to have bouncers today. Even if we do not understand, I myself may not understand a lot of stuff. So we'll touch a lot of stuff, and then we will share the slides from which we can build on. So we broadly know that we have Shruti and Smriti. Very popular classification that we are all introduced to very early on, and there are 18 seats of learning according to Madhudhara Saraswati ji, which is 4 Vedas we all know, which are the Shrutis, Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda. We know that. And then there are 6 Vedangas: Shiksha, Chandas, Vyakarana, Nirukta, Kalpa, Jyotisha. Again, we will not be getting into the details of any of it today. But in the future sessions, we'll build on some of them or each of them. Then we have Upavedas. We all know Ayurveda, Dhanurveda, Shastra or Artha Shastra, Gandharva, etc. Gandharva Shastra, Gandharva Veda, etc. And then we have, most importantly, what has influenced our lives is Itihasa and Purana. And then Agama and Darshana. We'll look at each of them in the future sessions, if not today. So that's the basic start. As to how we classify Shruti, Smriti, broad classification. And now let's look at what is Shruti and then what is Smriti, and then build on that knowledge. If there are children and if it is difficult to understand, don't worry. We will have a separate session for you guys only, where we will discuss how to understand this. Okay. Today, I didn't know who the audience was, so I have built something which may be high level for all of you. Just listen to these words, which will be useful in the future sometime. I promise to talk to all of you about this if you don't understand. Okay. So these are the basic classifications. We all are introduced to this. I will start with a very, very basic introduction as to what a Veda means. Veda means anything, any knowledge is a Veda. Nirvishesha Samanya Anubhava it is called. That is, how to brush is a Veda. How to comb my hair is a Veda. How to build a cycle is Veda. How to write programs on computers is a Veda. Everything is knowledge. With Jnane, that anything that is knowledge is Veda. But we have a classification called Vedaha. The moment we say Vedaha, we go from Nirvishesha to Vishesha Apaurusheya para atma jagadishvara satchidananda vishaya vedaha. That is, Vedaha looks at a qualified objective knowledge of para, atma, jagat, ishvara, satchidananda. These are the topics of Veda. That is, it looks as otherworldly, self, universe, and Lord. Again, Lord, God, or supreme power, however, different people have different opinions there. So it focuses on the knowledge of the self and the knowledge on the timeless wisdom of divine origin. That's what I have put here. So I put that word vidya avidya, which is the basis for Veda and non-Veda. In Ishopanishad, there is a shloka which says, avidyaya mrityum tirtva vidyaya amrutam ashnute. That is, vidya is any vidya that helps me elevate my soul or my self-knowledge. Avidya is anything that helps me manage my material body. That's the differentiation. So Veda is the knowledge of the self, or the spiritual knowledge is how we can look at it. And anything else is all other knowledge that may be related to body and bodily maintenance. So that's a very broad classification. So Vedaha means it's a very specified objective knowledge, not subjective knowledge. So Vedas are classified into four. We all know that. It's called Chaturveda, which is Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda. All going good till now? Am I going too fast? It's okay? I assume. So just drop me a message if I am going too fast or too slow. And then now let's start looking at one at a time. Let's take Shrutis for now. Today, I will spend a lot more time on Shrutis than Smritis, because the text of Smritis is so vast. Same with Shruti also. We may have to discuss separately what itihasas are, what Puranas are, what are the different Puranas, what is in each of the Puranas. We can look at that some other day. So we will take a look at Shrutis for today. Shruti means that which is heard not from an external ear, but an internal ear. Antahkarana it is called. That which has come from Antahkarana of the realized rishis. When did it come? Vedaha Sanatanaha. No one knows when it started. From the day of the origin of this universe, that knowledge was always there. Some seers, what we call our rishis, were able to tap into that knowledge. That is why it is called, we don't know the source of it. It was realized within, that's why it's called Apaurisheya. We all know this probably. And those who saw that, for this, there is a beautiful shloka in Ramayana, where you see Valmiki Ramayana, where Valmiki looks at the whole Ramayana in front of him like a, it's called gooseberry. As someone looks at gooseberry in front of him, he sees the whole Ramayana in front of him in his hasta. That is the perception which is beyond us. So they are the Veda Rishis. They were able to Veda Drishta Ajatam Shrutina Jatam. Such a beautiful statement. Ajatam Shrutina Jatam. That which did not take birth, took birth by Antahkarana. That is Veda. Which is realized within the hearts of the seers. When? We don't know. And the most beautiful part is Vedas are the source of the grammar. The grammar was not used to write Vedas. Vedas became the source of writing the grammar. It's so, how did it happen? It itself is wonderful to look at. So let's go at one Veda at a time. Rig Veda is rich. Rich means hymns or praises. There are a lot of praises or hymns around the different deities like Agni, Vayu, Indra, Veda Purusha, and then it goes into hymns on Purusha, Narayana. So there are a lot of hymns around it. So it is called a collection of praises or hymns, and the priest of this is called Hotra. And the object of this is Jnana, Atma Jnana. The second Veda is called the Yajurveda. It's a collection of rituals or manual, what it's called. It focuses on karma, the implementation of whatever is there, not just the praises, but it looks at how do I build a yajna kunda? How do I perform yajna? How do I, for example, when you're doing the yajna, you have to take the spoon from the east to the north and then pour the ghee into it. So it focuses more on the process and the rules in a yajna. So it's the implementation of kind of Rig Veda is the basis of all the Vedas, is what I have heard. I haven't read. So my knowledge is limited regarding this, but this is my understanding. And the one who does the priest or whoever presides over the Yajur Yajna is called Adhvaryu. And Samaveda is almost entirely Rig Veda in a musical form. So while Rig Veda is called Jnana, Samaveda is Jnana Samagana. The same Jnana that is done in Samagana, which is in the form of song, it is recited. The one who does this is called Udgatra. One who does this is Udgatra. And the final one is Atharva Veda. It's called Laukika Vidya. It's the Vidya of, so if we understand the relationship between these, in a Yaga Mantapa, all four will be reciting. Rig will be chanting, and then the Yajur will be performing the rituals using the rules and regulations of the Yajna, and the Sama will be singing the praises in a song form, and the Atharva Vedi, who is the Brahmi, will be observant to see if anybody is making a mistake. The role of a Atharva Vedi is to remove negative effects. So we will see a lot of things like in, they put Taita around here. If somebody is not feeling well, if somebody has evil, we call drishti, then Atharva Veda will have a solution for it. You do this and you find a solution for it. So removing evil is the focus of Atharva. So that's why a lot of people would call Atharva Veda as magical formulas. So which is not just magical formulas, because if you look at some of the Upanishads from Atharva Veda, they are absolutely stunning Upanishads. If you just read it, you will get that feel. Rig Veda recognizes the Yajur, Sama and Rig. But still Atharva Veda is an authentic Veda. All these are realized by the rishis, timeless. We don't know when they realized it, when they got this realization. Quality assurance. Oh yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. Sundarji provided a beautiful word. The role of the Brahmi in a yaga is quality assurance, to make sure that there are no mistakes. Any mistake happens, he will find a remedy and fix that mistake. Thank you, Sundarji. Beautiful word. This is where it gets a little tricky, and I don't know how well I can present it. I hope I will do justice to this. That's why I put a very clear mark saying that there are categories of Vedic text. All the Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharva, will have these categories of shloka, collection of shlokas or collection of hymns. These are not sections. I will come to that later. If we don't understand, we can work on that. So there are first category of shlokas is called Samhita, or it's also called mantra. Mantra talks about a lot of praises, poems on hymns and benedictions, sacrificial formulas, etc. So the focus of Samhita is what is to be done. What deity am I worshipping? I will write a hymn around that deity, etc. So the focus of Samhita is on hymns. So the focus is on what is to be done. Brahmanas focus on elaboration of the mantras. It will tell how a specific ritual needs to be implemented. So Samhita, Brahmana, and then Aranyaka. Aranyaka are reflections or meditations on the Samhita mantras or the Brahmana mantras. The focus of most of the Brahmana mantras are philosophical interpretations of the rituals. Sometimes they are included, not sometimes, most of the time they are included in the Brahmana section, sometimes in the Samhita section, sometimes on their own. I will repeat, this is where it gets a little confusing. There is Samhita. All we need to know is there is Samhita, there is Brahmana. That's it. That's all we need to know. Samhita, Brahmana. Inside Brahmana, we have, Brahmana should not be confused with the Jati Brahmana or the that Brahmana. That's a different one. Varana Brahmana is different. This is Brahmana, which talks about how do I implement. Inside Brahmana, we have Aranyakas and Upanishads most of the time. This is where I said it can be a little confusing. There are Aranyakas. Aranyakas are philosophical interpretations or philosophical extrapolations of the mantras that are in the Samhitas, that are expounded by in terms of implementation in the Brahmanas. Inside the Brahmanas are Aranyakas that reflect on those, meditations on those. And then there are Upanishads, which are discussions that take it to conclusion. So there is a premise, there is a body, and there is a conclusion. Upanishads are the conclusion. That's how we could look at. So both the Aranyakas or Upanishads are inside the Brahmana most of the time. But there are some Aranyakas that are inside Samhita. Right after a Samhita, there is an explanation or a philosophical interpretation of that hymn. That's the Aranyaka. There are some Upanishads, not some, a few Upanishads that are in Samhita. There are some Upanishads that are in Aranyaka also. So this is where it gets a little confusing. I have tried to create a visual image for it. Hopefully it will explain it. So what I look at it is, so Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka, Upanishad. But in general, all we need to know is Samhita and Brahmana. Inside Brahmana can be Aranyakas and Upanishads with exceptions. We will look at that very soon. For me, I look, if we were to remember Vedaha, all you need to remember is MBA-U. MBA, we all know, Master of Business Administration, but here it is not Master of Business Administration. Here M means mantra, B means Brahmana, A means Aranyaka, U means Upanishads. So if we remember this sutra, we will remember Veda. Vedaha manta brahmanayor Veda namadeyam. That is mantra plus Brahmana. Mantra means Samhita. Samhita, the other name for Samhita is mantra. Mantra plus Brahmana is Veda. The whole Veda is that. Now, so this is, Samhita is in all the Vedas. All Vedas have an exclusive Samhita. Brahmanas, as I was saying, can have Aranyakas and Upanishads inside the Brahmanas, with some exceptions. Samhita plus Brahmana, you can completely ignore these two. This is only for academic pursuit, if we want to know. The combination of Samhita and Brahmana, taking away Aranyaka and Upanishad, is called Karma Kanda. We may have heard of this again and again. That talks about rituals and implementation of rituals, performing yajna, how do I perform yajna, all those are looked at in Karma Kanda. Aranyaka looks at Upasana Kanda, which is contemplation, philosophical interpretation, etc. Upanishad is called Jnana Kanda, or some people call it Vedanta. The conclusion of the Veda or the core of the Veda, that's how it is looked at. So mantra brahmanayor Veda namadeyam. Veda just means mantra plus Brahmana, which is Samhita plus Brahmana. Brahmana contains Aranyaka and Upanishads also inside it. Sometimes Aranyaka may come in Samhita, sometimes Upanishads may come in Samhita, or Upanishads may also occur once in a while in Aranyaka. So that's why I said these are not sections, these are categories of shlokas. What do they do? Describe what they are. If it is all about hymns, then it is mantra. It's about how to implement something, then it becomes Brahmana. If it is about understanding philosophically about why it is done, what is being done, then it becomes Aranyaka. So some people say that Aranyakas are for Vanaprastha, the Samhitas are for Brahmacharya, Brahmanas are for Grahastha and all that. I personally do not know much about it. So I have seen some people interpret it that way. Is it going okay till now? Okay, I assume so. Is there anything? Please continue to tell me. So Veda is mantra brahmanayor Veda namadeyam. We just need to remember that. So this is the visual image I have tried to create. So there is the big Veda. Veda has Samhita. This portion is Samhita portion. Then there is Brahmana portion. Inside the Brahmana portion, you have Upanishads and Aranyakas. Some of the Upanishads may overlap into Samhita. Sometimes Aranyaka may overlap into Samhita. Once in a while, a Upanishads can be found in Aranyaka also. That is why it may appear confusing, but actually if we know the purpose of the different text categories, it becomes very easy. So we have Samhita, we have Brahmana, Upanishad and Aranyaka. All these together makes Veda. So this portion can be slightly difficult to comprehend. I will send the presentation slides because it is a lot of stuff that I have put here. I don't want to get into each of them, but all we need to know is how are these different texts organized. Rig Veda is organized into mandalas. Like I will show a piece of Rig Veda text later, and you will very clearly understand what a mandala is, what a anuvaka is, what a adhyaya is, what a sukta is, what a shloka is. So you have 10 mandalas in Rig Veda, and these mandalas are divided into anuvakas, and then there are adhyayas under these different anuvakas, and then there are suktas. We know different suktas, for example, Purusha Sukta, Shri Sukta, Narayana Sukta. All these suktas are there. Even Upanishads are appear to be in the form of suktas. So Rig Veda, Brahmana, we will not go too much into it. And then only thing which is important that I want to focus here is the Rig Veda, the Upanishad in Rig Veda is Aitareya Upanishad. Aitareya Upanishad is the Upanishad that is in Rig Veda. We just need to remember this. This is very important for us later. So next we look at Yajurveda. Yajurveda focuses, as we said, on sacrifice, worship, rituals, etc. Broad classification is there is Shukla Yajurveda and there is Krishna Yajurveda. And then Shukla Yajurveda, Krishna Yajurveda, all these majorly differ in their Aranyaka and the Brahmana portions, where they explain what and how things need to be done. The philosophical interpretations will be different, and also the Upanishads can be different. That is the only difference between the Shukla Yajurveda, and sometimes some of the formulas will be slightly different, but all of them are realized from within, passed on by generations just by listening. So then we have different schools under Shukla Yajurveda and Krishna Yajurveda. Shukla Yajurveda, as we all know, is very popular mostly in the North India. In South India, it's very lot of people have the Krishna Yajurveda they follow. Anyway, this is a very academic one. Here, what I want to focus here is what are the Upanishads that come out from Yajurveda. In Yajurveda, we have some of the very big Upanishads like Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad. It comes from Shukla Yajurveda. Then we have Isha Upanishad, which is from Shukla. The Isha Upanishad is the easiest of all Upanishads. You can memorize Isha Upanishad in 1 week. If we want, we can memorize Isha Upanishad like this in 1 week. Taittiriya Upanishad. Again, one of the most beautiful Upanishads that I had the fortune of memorizing it when I was a very small kid, but I have forgotten now. But I know that once you memorize, it's not difficult. So these Upanishads can easily be memorized. Then Brihad Aranyaka, Isha, Taittiriya Upanishad, Kathopanishad, Shvetashvatara Upanishad, Maitrayana, which is from Krishna Yajurveda. So that's all we need to focus on in each of the Vedas here. Samaveda, Saman means appeasing, calming, comforting, soothing, or something which is a metrical hymn, or which is a song. It's in a form of a song. Again, I tried to post it here. Samaveda is almost entirely Rig Veda. Almost entirely Rig Veda. Only difference is the intonations that come with the Samaveda. For example, in Rig Veda, Agna Yahi Vitaye, it may be like that. In Samaveda, intonations will come. Agna Ye Ayahi Vai, something like that. I don't know Samaveda, but I'm just assuming there is a song that goes through it. It's a beautiful intonation. So in Samaveda, there are intonations given along with the scripture. That's why Samaveda appears longer, but more or less it's the same. And Samaveda has very important two Upanishads, Chandogya and Kena Upanishad. We don't have to remember all these, but if we can remember, it will be fantastic. And then we have Atharva Veda. Atharva Veda is a collection of hymns, mostly as we looked at is removal of evil, removal of defects. It deals into that. So that's why if we cannot dismiss Atharva Veda, because it contains three extremely beautiful, extremely wonderful Upanishads, Mundaka, Mandukya and Prashna Upanishads. Mundaka, Mandukya and Prashna Upanishads are very, very beautiful Upanishads from Atharva Veda. Now let's focus on Upanishads themselves. So we looked at what is Shruti. We haven't looked at what is Smriti. Simply what we can say is anything that is not Shruti is Smriti. As simple as that. Now under Shruti, we looked at Vedas. Vedas we looked at Samhitas or mantras, Brahmanas, Aranyakas and Upanishads. The most critical portions for our current day are Upanishads. So we look at Upanishads exclusively today. There are three types. One is called the Mantra Upanishad. Mantra Upanishad is the Upanishad that comes in the Samhita portion of Veda. We know the Samhita portion. A Upanishad that comes in the Samhita portion is called the Mantra Upanishad. Two examples for those Upanishads are Isha Upanishad and Mundaka Upanishad. These are Mantra Upanishads or Samhita Upanishad. The second category is Brahmopanishad or the Upanishads that come in the Brahmana portion. Almost all the Upanishads come in the Brahmana portion of the Upanishads towards the end. The third category is Aranyaka Upanishad, which comes in the Upanishads that come in the Aranyaka portion. And they are called, one example is Aitareya Upanishad is Aranyaka Upanishad, the Rigveda. Upanishad from one Vedic branch will have the same Shantipata. I will quickly go back here and then come back here. This is why I started with the Shantipata here. Shantipata, for example, Sahana Bhavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu is from the same Shantipata in Taittiriya, Katha and Shvetashvatara. The Shantipata from Mundaka, Mandukya and Prashna are Om Bhadram Karane Vishpuniyama Devaha. The Shantipata in Kena and Chandogya are Apyayantu. Aitareya Upanishad Shantipata is Vangme Manasit Pratishtita. Brihadaranyaka and Isha, the Shantipata is Om Purnamadah Purnamidam. So the Shantipata in a specific branch of a Veda will be the same in those Upanishads. Again, sorry if I am going too fast. I will share the slides and hopefully we will be able to reflect on the contents we have discussed. So going back, Upanishads are Mantra Upanishads, Brahmopanishads and Aranyaka Upanishads. And the Upanishads always start with a Shantipata, and the Shantipata is the same for a specific Vedic branch. Now, this is the big picture of the Vedas. Rigveda, this is a very popular image you would have seen somewhere. One important Upanishad that is missing here is Shvetashvatara Upanishad. That is not mentioned here because it mentions the primary or the principal 10 Upanishads only. Rigveda has Aitareya, Yajurveda has Krishna Yajurveda, Shukla Yajurveda, which is Katha and Taittiriya, Isha and Brihadaranyaka, Samaveda has Kena and Chandogya, Atharva Veda has Prashna, Mundaka and Mandukya Upanishads. What I request all of you is to repeat after me. This is a beautiful shloka that we should all remember. So I will chant two words and then you can repeat. Isha Kena Katah Prashna. Isha Kena Katah Prashna. Mandu Mandukya Tittiri. Mandamandukya Tittiri. Aitareyam cha Chandogyam. Aitareyam cha Chandogyam. Brihadaranyakam tatha. Brihadaranyakam tatha. So we will repeat once more. Isha Kena Katah Prashna. Isha Kena Katah Prashna. Mandu Mandukya Tittiri. Mandu Mandukya Tittiri. Aitareyyam cha chandogyam. Aitareyyam cha chandogyam. Brihadaranyakam tatha. Brihadaranyakam tatha. So this is a, can you can you mute yourself, please, if you are not following? Sorry, because it creates disturbance. That's the only reason. Forgive me for that. So it's a very easy shloka to remember all the 10 Upanishads, but I have my own variation, and I am a seek forgiveness if it is not in the right chandas or anything. The variation I have is Isha Kena Katah Prashna Mandu Mandukya Tittiri Aitari Shveta Chandogyam Brihadaranyakam Tatha. That is my variation, because I did not want to miss Shvetashvatara Upanishad. The shloka from Muktiko Upanishad doesn't have Shvetashvatara. So instead of Aitariyam cha Chandogyam, I just changed it to Aitari Shveta Chandogyam. That is a minor improvisation I did for my own self, because I can remember all the 11 Upanishads. So I would say teach this to children, so that they know at least the 10 principal Upanishads. There are not just 10 or 11, there are hundreds of them. People say 108, but there can be more too. So Upanishads continued very quickly. Isha, as I said, just 18 mantras. You can learn it like this. If any of you want help, I am very happy to help. Kena Upanishad, a short one, 35 mantras. Katha Upanishads has 119 mantras. Prashna Upanishads, 67 mantras. Mundaka is a harder one, even though it is only 65 mantras, a tough nut to crack. Mandukya Upanishad is around only 12 mantras, but the hardest of all the Upanishads, people say. Whoever has tried, it is so dense that there is a Mandukya Karika, there is a mistake here, I think it is Karika, by Sri Gaudapada. It has 215 karikas just to explain the Mandukya Upanishad shlokas. It's such a wonderful condensed information. Then you have Taittiriya Upanishad, which has Shikshavalli, Anandavalli, and Bhruguvalli, beautiful Upanishad. Aitareya Upanishad, which has 33 mantras. The biggest one is Chandogya, which is 627 mantras. Brihad Aranyaka, even though it has only 434 mantras, is in fact longer, because each of the shlokas is longer. So these are the 10 primary Upanishads. Shvetashvatara I haven't included here. Isha Kena Katah Prashna Mandu Mandukya Tittiri Aitareyyam cha Chandogyam Brihadaranyakam Tatha. These are the 10 Upanishads that we have to remember. Now quickly coming into, I know I'm already reaching 7:40. I was supposed to kind of conclude by around 7:50-ish. I will try to. But the subject itself is so vast that I'm trying to catch up. So Shruti, we all looked at what is Shruti. Shruti is that which is Apaurushaya, that for which we do not know the source. That is Shruti. Then we have Smriti. Smriti, expansive text scriptures that kind of provide a commentary, more or less a commentary or a supplement the Shrutis. To help understand the Shrutis better, we have the Smritis. Smritis are usually memorized and passed on from generation to generation. So we have Puranas, we have Itihasa, we have Dharma Shastra, we have other Niti Shastras, Upavedas, Nibandhas, Agamas, and Darshanas. Most popular that we are all familiar with are Puranas and Itihasas. Puranas, we know that there are principal Puranas. Again, they say there are 108 Puranas. We can easily classify them, the primary ones, as Brahma, Brahmanda, Brahma Vivarta, Linga, Markandeya, Padma, Shiva, Skanda, Garuda, Narada, Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Vamana, Vishnu, Bhagavata, Agni, Bhavishya. These are the very prominent Puranas, Mahapuranas. Out of this, Skanda Purana is the most extensive of all Puranas. We can have separate session on each of these Puranas, or the discussion on Puranas. We don't have time today to go into depth of this. Itihasa, we all know. We love, the most beautiful part of Itihasa is, that is, for a Western mind, Itihasa was something that happened in the past. From a Shastric perspective, Itihasa is that which is happening now kind of a perspective. Those who wrote Itihasas were contemporary at the time it was happening. So Ramayana, when it was happening, Sri Valmiki was there, Bhagavan was there. When Mahabharata was being written, Vedavyasa, Bhagavan Vedavyasa was there. So they were contemporary Itihasa, that which is happening as it is, kind of. Then we know the different smritis. Manusmriti, it's itself a topic, huge topic by itself. We have Vishnu Smriti, Yajnavalkya, Parashara, Narada Smriti, so many smritis. Then we have Upavedas. How can we forget Ayurveda? Unbelievably beautiful science that we have forgotten. And then we have Darshana Shastras like Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, none of which I am exposed to. But beautiful. I will quickly scan through this one. The very important part of understanding Vedas is through Shiksha, Vyakarana, Chandas, Nirukta, Jyotisha, Kalpa. All these things are important for us to understand Vedas. So that's why Vedangas are very, very important. Again, the knowledge or the skill or competency in this area has been lost more and more. Fortunately, people are getting interested and going back to these things. So I will not spend too much time. This is a separate topic for discussion. I'm just touching this topic. Vedangas are complements that help us understand the scriptures better. Through Vyakarana, by understanding Chandas. One important thing I will show later, why is Chandas so important? If there are any electronic engineers, there is something called a checksum, and Chandas provides that checksum. There is this beautiful shloka again that I will not go into. How do we remember the different portions? Chandaha padau tu vedasya. Chandas are like the legs. Hastau kalpota pathyate. The hasta, like these kalpas are the hastas, like that. There is a beautiful shloka that we can teach children and we can also learn. This is the description of the Veda Purusha in general. So now this is probably the most important one, and we will definitely have separate sessions on these things later. Prasthana Trayi. Even if we do not know any of the Vedas, we may not know Rig Veda, we may not know Yajur Veda, we may not know a lot about Sama Veda or Atharva Veda, but Prasthana Trayi is something that we can all easily learn. We can still understand these things. Srimad Bhagavad Gita is the mother of all scriptures, some people say, because all of you know this. If you know, you can chant this with me. Sarvo Panishado Gavo Dogdha Gopala Nandanaha Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdam Gitamrutam Mahat. All the knowledge from the Upanishads and the Vedas are put into this, and this is called the Smriti Prasthana, because this is in Smriti, which is Mahabharata. This is Bhagavad Gita is in Mahabharata, so this is called Smriti Prasthana. The second is Brahma Sutras by Badarayana, which is Srila Vyasadeva. This is very sutras, which one example is Atato Brahma Jignasa. We all know that. This is called Sutra Prasthana or Nyaya Prasthana. And the third is Upanishads, which is the 10 or 11 principal Upanishads. They are called Upadesha Prasthana. So why are these important is any school of thought, whether Shankara school of thought or Madhva school of thought or Ramanuja school of thought or any school of thought like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu school of thought, any school of thought has to establish its philosophy by using these Prasthana Triyis. You have to support your arguments using Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutra and Upanishads. The 10 primary Upanishads are those that were used by the Acharyas to make the point. Everything else is covered by these 10 or 11 primary principal Upanishads. So Prasthanatrayi, if we have to know something which we can easily learn, are these Prasthanatrayis. And when I say easily, I am not saying we can understand it, but at least we can give it a shot. So this is Prasthanatrayi that we should know. We should have some focus in teaching children and also learning. So Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutras and Upanishads, that's one. For me, the greatest insight from all this is just two things. One is Omkara, Pranava. Every Veda, every shloka, every mantra starts with Om. We all know that, which is Akara, Ukara, Makara, Iti. Akara is Prithvi, Agni, Sharira, Tamas. Ukara is Akasha, Apa, Prana, Rajas. Makara is Dhyau, Aditya, Manas, Sattva. The description of this is in this shloka. I don't think I will have time to go into this, which is Hiranya Garbha Sukta. As I said, I was a little ambitious to put even this in here. We will not be able to go into that in depth, but in a future session, we can talk about it. The second most significant one that has touched a lot of Hindu lives is Gayatri Mantra. Most of us, when we say Gayatri Mantra, we say Om Bhur Bhuvasvaha and then Tat Saviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonaha Prachodayat. The core Gayatri Mantra is Tat Saviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonaha Prachodayat. This is core Gayatri Mantra. The other things are called Vyahriti. We have a Vyahriti around the Gayatri Mantra. Om Bhuhu, Om Bhuvaha, Om Suvaha, Om Maha, Om Janaha, Om Tapah, Ogum Satyam, Om Tat Saviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonaha Prachodayat, Om Apo Jyotirs, Om Brahma Bhurbhuvas Suvaro Om. We have a Vyahriti over and the bottom, and in the middle is Gayatri. And the description of Gayatri is so beautiful in the Vedas, is that Mukta Vidrumahe Manila Dhavada Chayair Mukair Triyakshanaihi. So anybody who does Sandhya Vandana will know that description of Gayatri. So again, the greatest insight for me, from if I have to pick two things, then it will be Omkara and the Pranava and the Gayatri Mantra. So I am going almost towards the end. I have fortunately managed my time well. I am skipping this portion, but I wanted to show a few things before I ended my session. How do I find, you will develop an appreciation for our gurus. You will develop an appreciation for our rishis when I show you this. I fell in love with it when I saw this scriptural inference. For example, I will show my, where is my website? Yeah. If you, I don't know whether you can see, are you able to see my website? Oh, awesome. So what I am showing, can you briefly touch upon pluralism embedded in Vedic forms of Hindu religion? That is, it goes beyond and above secularism, which is merely tolerance. Definitely we can touch that. It's a wonderful topic to discuss, quite a huge topic to touch. Let's see. I wanted to quickly give a very quick perspective as to how wonderful our rishis, our gurus are, which is, this is from Rig Veda. As I don't know if I can share multiple screens. I wish I could. If I could share multiple, anyway, I will. This is from this is Rig Veda, Tritiya Mandala. This is Rig Veda, Tritiya Mandalam. In each of the Vedas, as I was saying, you will see this is Mandala 3 and this is Anuvaka 1. So to find Gayatri Mantra, we have to go all the way down. Look at the data mining done by our rishis. If you see the text, amount of text that I am skipping, you will be amazed as to where Gayatri Mantra is sitting. His Gayatri Mantra is sitting in the 3rd Mandala, 5th Anuvaka, and the 62nd Sukta in the 10th Shloka here. I don't know whether you can see that or not. Tatsaviturvarenyam bhargo devasya dhimahi dhiyo yonah prachodayat. And they pick it out from there and give it to us. Chant this. If you can't do anything, take this. It's like picking like from a huge mountain of Sanjeevani Parvata. He knew what medicine was good for us. So he picked that one medicine and gave it to us. So beautiful. And then if you do Sandhya Vandana, you will have what we call apo hishtamayo bhuvatana urjedadatana maheranaya chakshase yo vashyavata morasa, like that, which is the purification mantra, which is in Mandala 10, Anuvaka 1 and 9th Sukta, which is apo hishtamayo bhuvaha, like this here. So what our Sutradaris they have done is they have picked portions. For example, my Sutradari is Apastamba Sutra. He has provided, take care of this, learn this, practice this. So this is how we identify. And here, each of the Suktas will have which Chandas it is in. Gayatri Chandas, Vardhamana Gayatri Chandas, Pratishtha Gayatri Chandas, Anushtup Chandas, like that. So that's one. I will quickly show, this is my favorite, which is Purusha Sukta. How do I find Purusha Sukta? Purusha Sukta is in Rig Veda, Mandala 10, Anuvaka 7, Sukta 90. Sahasra Shirisha Purusha Sahasraksha Sahasrapat. So beautifully sitting here. Most of us know Nasadiya Sukta, so I will quickly show Nasadiya Sukta. This is Narayana Sukta, which is in Yajurveda, Prapataka 10, Anuvaka 13. Prapataka 10, Anuvaka 13. This one is called Nasadiya Sukta, very popular Sukta. If you knew, if you used to watch Bharat Ek Khoj, एक गाना आता था, सृष्टि से पहले कुछ नहीं था, अंतरिक्ष भी नहीं, आकाश भी नहीं था. Such a beautiful song that is coming from Nasadiya Sutra here. That is from Rigveda, Mandala 10, Anuvaka 11, 129th Sukta. So I just wanted to quickly show some of these so that we develop an appreciation for our rishis or our gurus who have provided in a huge ocean. They have picked up the nectar and given it to us. Just one cup of nectar is good enough from the huge ocean. So this is a popular one, most of us know. This is from second mandala, third Anuvaka, and 23rd Sukta, which is Ganana Antva Ganapatigum Havamahe Kavin Kavinam Upavashravastamam Jesharajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashrunnuti Visida Sadhanam. So we know this. And there is similarly Mrityunjaya and all that. This is from Yajurveda. Yajurveda 4.5.1. which is Namaste Rudramanya Utota Ijave Namaha. This is Rudra. Rudra, Namaka, Chamaka are in, I have taken it from Yajurveda. So wanted to quickly show how these gems are hidden in such a vast, huge ocean of our Vedic texts. I know it can be overwhelming. My intention was only to just throw things here today that we can discuss in the future. And these are the references that I will leave for the discussion, or if you want to keep referring more, these are the discussions. Can you briefly touch upon pluralism embedded in Vedic forms of Hindu religion? Pluralism in this sense, can you tell me a bit about this? Whereas pluralism, acceptance of all beliefs leading to nirguna. I'm not an expert in this field, I suppose. But for me, one Bhagavad Gita is good enough for me to explain this. For example, Shunichaiva Shvapakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha. One who can see the same soul in Shuni, which is a dog eater, in a dog, Shvapake, one who eats a dog, Pandita Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Shvapakecha Pandita Samadarshana. If I can see the same soul in all, I don't know why we need to worry about pluralism or other things. We are all the same. We have different bodies. We have different samskaras. So our thought process is different. Our mindsets are different. Our intelligences are different due to karmas. But Girish, is it true that Rigveda is the first written book in the world? Good question, Ajay ji. First thing is it was not written. If it was written, then it cannot be Shruti. I would say it was probably the first realized knowledge. So we can say the first realized knowledge is Rigveda. Anybody could have written anything else before writing Rigveda, but Rigveda is the first essence of true knowledge that was realized from within. So I am not a historian, so the best person to answer a question like that is our Sundarji. I will transfer all such questions to Sundarji, who is excellent in answering those questions. For me, Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda, all these things were realized. It's not about writing. That is why the Western mind struggles to understand. They try to fix a date for it. They think Rigveda was written 2000 years back. 5000 years back, we had Mahabharata. In Mahabharata, there are Rigveda mantras. That means Rigveda must have preceded Mahabharata. But for them, they will fix Mahabharata to 1500, 2000 years back. So they have this struggle that, probably a struggle that, according to them, The world was created 5,000 years back. So they have to fit a lot of the text within that 5,000 years range. So they struggle with that. For us, time is limitless. That's why ajatam shrutina jatam. That which is unborn. Knowledge, how can knowledge be born? Knowledge is unborn. Shrutina jatam. Somehow by antahkarana. That's why we need to be very careful. It is not shruti, which is external ears, but the antahkarana. Karana means ear. Antahkarana means inner ears. That was heard inside the inner ears is antahkarana. Ajatam shrutina jatam. So that's why I struggle to answer this question, because for me, I don't know when it was written. For me, it doesn't matter when it was written, because the knowledge was timeless. Sanatana, it was always there. And Rig Veda was realized, probably the earliest form of realization of any knowledge was Rig Veda, is my understanding. I don't know whether it answers your question or not, Ajayji. So I will ask Sundarji to answer this in the next session. I'm very intelligent in redirecting the questions. Sometimes different beliefs leading to the Supreme God. Absolutely. This is beautiful. So if that is the explanation, then pluralism is acceptance of different beliefs leading to the Supreme God. And I don't have to talk much about it. We all know that. Ekam Sat. And the rest of it, you can fill it. Ekam Sat, Bahuda Vadanti. Kopi Bahuda Vadanti. Aham Bahuda Vadami, Anyat api Bahuda Vadati. So everybody will have multiple perspectives, but there is only one truth. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate. That itself is enough for me. I am only one. And rest of the things come from me. So whether it is you realize it through Shankara Advaita philosophy, or through Madhva Dvaita philosophy, or Ramanuja's Vishishta Advaita, or you realize even without these things is irrelevant. The realization is important, and some people don't even read Vedas. They have realized this just by reading Tulsi Ramayana. Why not? Somebody has realized this truth by reading Kabir texts. So if the realization can happen, all we need is a seed. That seed can come from Vedas. That seed can come from a simple text in Kannada. I have something called Kagga. Kagga gives me that inspiration to learn more about myself and my nature and other things. Oh, thank you, Ratanji. So I took a little longer than I wanted to. I apologize for that. I was a little ambitious. I put too much stuff into it. I hope I was able to do some justice. And I will ask our very dear Sundarji to build from here.
I really loved it.
Yeah.
And it was Vedas are thousands of years old.
Yeah.
To put it into 1 hour is impossible.
Impossible.
Like for a movie, this is not even a trailer. It's not even a poster. It's just
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And again, when we discussed, that was our purpose. Our purpose today was to set the vocabulary and then build on the vocabulary in the future sessions. So my guru is Sundarji. With that, I thank everyone.
As far as I was just going to add that as far as writing is concerned, Panini was the one who wrote the first book of grammar, Ashtadhyaya, about I think 4th or 5th century BC. So there could be a lot of writings, but a book as such for grammar can only be written after that. There was no grammar of any language before that.
That is true. That is true. If given a choice, the Western mind may say that Panini was born in 1922. They may even bring them down to they try to make it insignificant, as if he was younger than Mahatma Gandhi. So they have that habit of making stuff trivial. So the idea of time is the cyclic idea of time, or the infinite nature of time. For example, our beautiful, sorry, I'm taking more time. Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. That idea itself, that is complete, this is complete. From complete comes complete. From complete, if you take complete, complete remains. What idea is that? Such a fascinating idea that will take hundreds of years for people to even comprehend.
And that is the concept of Shunya, where much before even zero was invented. So the infinite and Shunya were basically the concepts that were already realized in the Vedas. I just wanted to add that Vedas have not been, like Ganesh said, Vedas are not really written or anything. It's just a realization. So not one person wrote that. So a lot of people just empirically added on to it. It has been passed by interpretations to interpretations. There lies the pluralism.
As you can see, what we are hearing now is Apaurushayavani. We can't see Raghavendra. We can only see the voice which is coming from inside. So this is the truth of Veda. So let me stop there.
Video.
No, don't worry. No, I'm just kidding. So let us stop here, and I thank everyone. I will share the slides.
May I ask a quick question? For people who know Vishnu Sahasranamam, for example, there are different sections of the Vishnu Sahasranamam. So is that something very similar to how verses are written, or is it something unique with Vishnu Sahasranamam?
Vishnu Sahasranamam comes from a Smriti. One, again, the way the sections of Vishnu Sahasranamam are understood is in different ways. For example, the sections of the Vishnu Sahasranamam, if you look at Parashara's interpretation, he will have a different interpretation. This first few sections talk about these avatars, then these sections talk about these avatars. If you look at the translation from Swami Chinmayanandaji, it's a plain translation. No interpretation of sections. It just takes meaning at a time. How I look at it is, I look at a block view of Vishnu Sahasranama. So it depends on individuals how we look at it, but the whole idea is, even Vishnu Sahasranama, one word is enough to complete whole Vishnu Sahasranama. Vishwam, you can stop it there. Whole Vishnu Sahasranama is complete just with that one word. Okay, you want to expand? Vishnu, you can go to the next word. And that will complete whole Vishnu Sahasranama. So the rest of the Vishnu Sahasranama, more or less, if I look at it, becomes an interpretation of those two words. He is the Vishnu, and he comes as Narasimha Vapu Shriman. He will come like that. So it depends on individual interpretations, I believe.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't know if I could answer.
No, thank you. That was great. So any more questions anybody had? Okay. Wonderful session, Girishji. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So we will build on this. This is just a foundation. Thanks to everyone for being patient with me, for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Girishji.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you. See ya.
Okay.
Thank you, Girishji. Thank you so much.
Thank you.